Welcome to Close Listening. I'm Zach Morgenstern, joined as always by silent co-host Ludwig von B. Today, we're going to talk about more Bob Dylan albums from the 1990s, specifically Good As I've Been to You and World Gone Wrong. When I picked this album out from the library, I was very intrigued to see what content was on it. It's clearly interesting cover art, giving a sort of French wine bar, artist lounge kind of feel to it. So I wondered, what concept is Bob Dylan going for here? Unfortunately, I would go on to be a bit disappointed only in that, when one sees this album, one pictures something original and inventive, when in fact, this is sort of part two of a duo of project that all consisted of old sort of folk and blues covers. The first of those albums, Good As I've Been to You, admittedly does not deceive you with interesting cover art. I don't really know what's going on with this cover art. I have to assume that we're now in the cassette era, so they had to awkwardly package records in something that made plain the shape of a cassette box versus the record box. I guess that's what's going on. Good As I've Been to You starts with a song called Frankie and Albert. Right away, what stood out about the record is the guitar playing, which it turns out it's all Dylan's. Sometimes you can assume that because someone is primarily a lyricist and doesn't really show off their instrumental playing, that all they do is very basic playing. And I mean, I'm not enough of a technical guitar guy to tell you if what Bob Dylan's playing is particularly difficult, but he's doing far more than the bare minimum. He's doing, what the old bluesmen would have done, mixing rhythm guitar with lead guitar, and the production of the guitar is nice and clean. Whether you ultimately like the songs, Dylan's guitar playing, making the most out of that simple instrumentation, because it's just him singing with his guitar and occasionally playing harmonica. So musically, this first song, Frankie and Albert, I thought the song was a good place to start the album because even though it's a cover, it shows what we like about Bob Dylan as a singer-songwriter, namely that it consists of detailed storytelling, but it still manages to throw in a bit of a catchy chorus. He was her man and he done her wrong. Now, lyrically, it's quite a weird song. It's about a woman killing her husband for cheating on her and then being caught and executed. It's just enough of a story that you get frustrated that there's not more to it. Like me, because, I'm, a peace and love hippie guy. I'm like, why does she get executed at the end? They said it was second-degree murder. Like, who believes in the death penalty? I don't know. I'm getting sad over a silly folk song. Track number 2 is called Jim Jones, and we jump from Southern blues to something that's a bit richer and echoier. That said, one common theme between the songs on this record that sound more folky versus the one that sound more bluesy is we now have a fairly modern day version of Bob Dylan's voice. It's quite full of crags, and unfortunately, sometimes he starts to mumble, which means he's singing these very detailed old folk songs, but lots of the time, if you're not looking at the lyrics, it's hard to know what he's singing about. So in this case, he's singing about being sort of sentenced as a criminal punishment to serve on a ship and then having that ship getting attacked by pirates and feeling like your life is bad and it only gets worse. Track 3 is called Blackjack Davy, which sort of continues pirate feel. And also this song might be the inspiration for a Bob Dylan song, Boots of Spanish Leather. We get a song called Canadee-I-O. This is a story of a woman dressing in men's sailor clothes to go on an ocean adventure. The actual drama of the song isn't that interesting, nor is it clear why it's a reference to Canada, but it's a pleasant sounding theme song. We get a song called Sitting on Top of the World. No idea if it's really related to the Al Jolson song, but this is just a bluesy, chilled out post-breakup song. Then we get Little Maggie. This is a heartbreak song about a non-traditional woman. It goes, oh, where's little Maggie? Over yonder she stands, rifle on her shoulder, 6-shooter in her hand. Now, apparently this comes from the story of a woman who sort of moved from suitor to suitor, from hotel to hotel. But it's interesting that she's introduced in this way as this outlaw figure. A number of the folk songs on these two albums deal with women subverting gender expectations. Track number 7 is called Hard Times. This is a Stephen Foster song played melancholily on guitar, though it has a kind of gospel feel to it. Track number 8 is called Step It Up and Go. This one maybe is a bit of a proto-rockabilly thing going on. Track number 9 is called Tomorrow Night. This is a relaxing under the stars in the country number with a harmonica bit that stands out because it's kind of similar to Simple Twist of Fate. Then we get Arthur McBride, a slow ballad protesting recruitment into the army. We get track 11, You're Gonna Quit Me, a slow, simple blues song. And this is where the line in the title, Good As I've Been to You, comes from. Track 12 is called Diamond Joe. This is a song about hiring and being mistreated by a famous outlaw. And then finally we end with Froggy Went a Courtin', a song you quite probably know about, a frog proposing to a mouse and getting permission from her uncle, the rat, to marry her. And then a bunch of people show up to the wedding. Apparently, this is a song that has its origins way back and it's allegorical to different royal figures in England, which explains why it sort of sounds like a children's song, yet it seems to be part of the mainstream adult canon. And also, the ending is quite weird for a child song. In verse 18, the frog gets eaten. And then in verse 19, Dylan sings a little piece of cornbread laying on a shelf. If you want any more, you can sing it yourself. Uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. Kind of reminds me of the end of Stuck Inside a Mobile with the Memphis Blues Again, a song which makes fun of how long it is, how much nonsense it's filled with. So I feel like that's been one of the fun themes of listening to these records, hearing little bits and pieces here and there where Dylan might have gotten his songwriting ideas from. So World Gone Wrong, even though the cover art is so different, again, a continuation of the same concept, Bob Dylan playing some blues and folk standards. World Gone Wrong, I felt like maybe had a couple truly memorable performances on it, including the title song. Went through kind of a sort of genre emotional roller coaster on that song because it's the opening delivery of its title was emotionally resonant. And then immediately, though, the song started to sound like old-timey blues, and I felt like it lost its emotional edge. And I don't know if that's fair to old-timey blues. I guess I just think of old-timey blues as a sort of aesthetic genre thing, something they play in the background of a movie while the colors change to sepia and you're just supposed to think dust in old times, when obviously these songs once did have meaning to people. But I guess there's something about lingering on one chord for too long that we don't have in slightly newer pop or rock songs. I don't know, but it's an interesting song with simple lyrics, but that could mean a lot of things. The song could be a general statement of bitterness, but it also could be the origin story of a character like the Joaquin Phoenix version of the Joker, as it goes, I can't be good in a world that's gone wrong. Track number 2 is called Love Henry. So kind of like Frankie and Albert, a sort of weird, emotionally unsettling murder ballad, this time about a woman who kills a man despite loving him. It's a bit more mysterious what her motives are. Track number 3 is called Ragged and Dirty. It's a bluesy breakup song. I don't love it, but at least I appreciate the sentence structure, and each verse is a bit looser than they would be in a modern, more polished folk song. Kind of reminds me a bit of the sort of stream of consciousness delivery style of Don't Think Twice, It's All Right. Track number 4 is my other favorite, Blood in My Eyes, namely in that it's such a graphic, potentially aggressive image, yet it's performed in this laid-back way. I wonder if this song was an inspiration for Bruce Springsteen's I'm on Fire, which is sort of similar, sort of over a top and aggressive in its language. But, presumably one doesn't interpret Bruce's character as actually being on fire in that way. Track number 5 is called Broke Down Engine. This song played on an acoustic guitar, so sort of has that old-timey blues sound, but there's also a bit of a Chuck Berry thing going on, which is kind of eerie when heard on acoustic guitar without that electric embellishment. So just musically a very cool contribution. Track number 6, another dark murder ballad. We get a song called Delia, also a song that repeats that theme of a non-traditional woman, introducing the character of Delia as a gambler. It then goes on to talk about her being murdered, and then the singer is someone who's friends both with Delia and the killer. He sings in the chorus, all my friends are gone. So it becomes this universal call of sympathy for people perhaps living in troubled communities. It's saying, don't pathologize them, try and understand them. It sucks to be killed, it sucks to be in jail. These are all horrible things. We want better for everyone. Track 7 is called Stackily, again, a song about an outlaw figure, a song about murder. This character, Stackily or Staggerly, seems to be quite popular. I mean, Neil Diamond also performed a song about him, though I think that one ends up sounding quite different than this. And this particular murder ballad is about someone who seemingly started a fight over a hat. Though again, Bob Dylan has this sort of down and out mumbly voice where it makes it hard to enjoy the whimsicality of the song. Track number 8 is called Two Soldiers. This is sort of the standard trope of a dying soldier asking that a message of his love be delivered by a friend, kind of similar to songs like Give My Love to Rose and Streets of Laredo. but this one is set during the American Revolution. Track number 9 is called Jackaroo. We once again see a woman dressed in man's clothing and going on a military ship. And finally, the album ends with a slightly different feeling song, something with a vaguely spiritual feel to it, called Lonely Pilgrim, about going off on some, again, possibly militaristic voyage and risking death, but saying either in the literal or in the spiritual sense, the singer will continue to live on. So there are a lot of interesting songs on here. And again, the guitar playing is really great. I feel like unlike earlier times where we've seen Bob Dylan do covers, like on his much maligned Self-Portrait and Dylan albums, this is not about him singing, his favorite songs of the day, but rather sharing some of the songs that likely played a role in shaping him and possibly using those songs to rediscover his sound. Maybe he can't write Blowing in the Wind anymore, but he can share with you the wonderful songs that inspired Blowing in the Wind and Don't Think Twice, It's All Right. I guess what I wish, because these are all covers albums, I wish he kind of did it like it was live at an open mic, and actually there was like a bit of banter, but on the tracks where he sort of introduced what they were, why these songs meant something to him. So that way, even if the nature of his singing voice makes it hard to hear the individual lyrics, or even because of the simple instrumentation, they start to sound a bit repetitive, a listener could, just as part of this experience, appreciate what's special about the songs. Obviously, you can go on to do research, but the experience of listening to music should just be a listening experience. I'm Zach Morgenstern. This is Ludwig von Bee. See you next time.